Hello class, I'm just firing up a PowerPoint here to provide you with some early information for week 3 because we're meeting as both groups on Wednesday due to the holiday on Monday. It just felt to me like if I could get you some preliminary information to help you along understanding better what the readings mean and how to get you to the completion of part 2 of the curriculum map a little more efficiently. So we're going to be talking about the curriculum map and how to complete it during week 3. Just a comment about this past week. I haven't seen your part 1 of the curriculum maps. I was ill on Wednesday, apologize for that. But I do just want to make a comment on the quality of your reflections and comments. I've learned a lot from your reflections, and you are clearly learning from each other, and I appreciate how careful you are with these and compliment you on the quality. These are the 3 learning targets for this week that you would be able to explain the location and content of the Common Core State and Utah Core Standards. Understand the need to prioritize and organize them into some teaching order, and then to describe the properties and purposes of a curriculum map, which you're learning as you construct the first 3 columns of your map. For this week, you're going to be studying learning target types. A learning target is a variation on an objective, and learning target types refer to the type of learning in an objective. So we're going to use Rick Stiggins and his definition of learning target types. And by the end of your study this week, you'll be able to explain the main learning types defined by Stiggins. You'll be able to classify objectives for their learning target type, and then you'll be able to write student-friendly learning targets. So as you study the resources for week 3, these are the things you're going to be leaning toward in terms of skill development and knowledge development. Clear learning targets have properties that are different from standards or from goals. The learning target is teachable, it's usually short-term, it's measurable, and it specifies the learning to be acquired by the student. A standard is more long-term and more global and limited in detail. So a learning target is taking what to teach from a level of a standard down through an objective to a teachable target. Learning targets are not activities. They are teachable targets, and one component oriented in terms of it's part of a learning plan that has multiple parts, but one learning target is a piece of the bigger unit plan that results in the learning of the standard. Let me say this again, I kind of messed that up. Learning targets, when assembled together, result in the achievement of larger learning goals or standards. That's a little better. So there are several types of learning targets. The first level is knowledge and understanding. This has to do with comprehending, knowing a concept, a definition of something. Being able to describe or explain something would be the action taken for a knowledge target. A reasoning target means you're figuring out answers based on knowledge. So once you understand something, you may analyze it, synthesize it, compare it, contrast it, perform some reasoning tasks associated with it. A skill is something a student performs as a result of their new knowledge and reasoning achievements. So a skill is a performance. It's something that you do to demonstrate your learning. A product is like a skill. It's a performance also, and it's related to a skill. So it's not a new category. You could say skill/product, and it's also a manifestation of learning through producing something. And finally, while it's not a learning target, it turns out to be crucial, and that is disposition. The disposition of the student, the decisions the student makes about his effort, his willingness to try, his belief in his ability, has everything to do with whether or not you'll be successful teaching him. And so as we're talking about learning targets, we want to also remember that the way we teach, the relationship we have with the student, and that student's willingness to try to learn is vital to our success. So just a quick review, knowledge targets. Again, you're going to read about this in some detail, but knowledge targets are about knowing and understanding. Some of the verbs are listed here, and I have a table of verbs that I'm going to put in the content section that you can link to that'll help you as you begin to write your student-friendly learning targets. Reasoning targets. Note that you take knowledge along with you toward the reasoning and problem-solving targets. So again, the verbs are listed here. I'll not read them to you, but as you become familiar with the verbs and how to apply them, this will help you to effectively write student-friendly learning targets for reasoning. The skill targets, again, verbs listed here, and you'll read about this in your readings. That has to do with a performance of some kind, and you can think of lots of examples and have been involved in lots of examples. One of the skill targets for this week will be to write an effective, properly structured, student-friendly learning target. When you do that, you are meeting the skill target objective or learning target for this week. The product or performance target, just like a skill target, here are some verbs associated with that. And you can see clearly from the picture what we're talking about. So this slide just depicts the fact that these targets don't stand independently of each other. If you're performing a skill, you can see that knowledge plus reasoning plus the skill result in the performance. Most of the time, learning targets are cumulative. You can't produce a skill without knowledge of the basic rudiments. So here's an example of a progression from a standard to a learning target. The big idea is to develop initial understanding in reading. And initial understanding of text requires that students consider the text in a broader perspective, as it says here. The standard associated with this big idea is that students will make inferences or draw conclusions based on what is read. There's not enough information in the standard to construct an activity or a lesson or even an assessment for it. So we create learning targets in order to break down the standard into teachable components. The learning targets have a specific format. They begin with an I can statement and then have a verb. I can explain in the first one is a knowledge target. So I can explain what an inference is. I can identify important details in a story. I can identify, and this means that I can tell which information is most important to understanding the story. This target is a reasoning target. I've analyzed the information and I've classified the most important information for understanding the story. And so this is a reasoning learning target. I can connect the details about the main character to what I already know. And this is also a reasoning target. I can make an inference about why something happened in the story. And making an inference could be borders on a skill, but it's also heavily on the reasoning side. So I can, a verb, and then to clarify, a this means statement. So I can identify, this means I can tell which information is most important. These are the kinds of student-friendly learning targets you'll be writing this week. So the effective teacher knows the learning targets. He or she accurately classifies them into the learning type. and can state the targets in student-friendly language. So this is your preview. It's designed to help you start getting familiar with the language of learning target types, classification of learning targets into knowledge, reasoning, skill, performance, and also the beginning to understand how to state these targets in student-friendly language. So hopefully this gets you launched. Encourage you to read carefully the resources, watch the little PowerPoints, the Prezi presentation. They should help solidify this, and we'll see you on Wednesday, both groups meeting together. And I appreciate your attention to this, and good luck.